In my own work, I also was studying violent representations in the context of Spain, Spanish cinema. Now, Spanish cinema is known for having very bloody films, very violent films. And yet, when I looked at those films, I found that it wasn't that they were more violent, say, than Japanese films, or more violent than Hollywood films, but rather that the violence was represented in a very different way. In many senses, it was inflicted with a knife rather than guns. It was very personal. It was very eroticized frequently. And it was, in many ways, there would be an alternation between sacrifice and massacre. And the sacrifice frequently related to issues of religion. That didn't mean there couldn't be an interplay or an influence between Spanish cinema and Hollywood cinema and the way they represented violence. One wonderful example is Sam Peckinpah. One of his very favorite films is a Spanish film called The Hunt, La Caza, which was directed by Carlos Saura. And Peckinpah claims that seeing that film changed his life because he was able to see how the representation of violence could be rhythmic. It was very moving and it caught you up despite what you thought about the narrative issues. And in many ways, his own film, The Wild Bunch, adopted many of the conventions, those rhythmic conventions that he observed in that film, The Hunt. And yet, he transformed it to deal with a different kind of ideology that celebrated the idea of the group of outlaws who were hanging together no matter what the consequences. And although both films end in a bloody massacre, they end up supporting a very different vision of the world. Now, it's interesting that when The Wild Bunch came to Spain, it was censored because it was so violent. And the person they hired to recut the film was the same editor who had worked on The Hunt. And neither he nor the director, Carlos Saura, recognized the connection between The Wild Bunch and The Hunt.